change.
Wardrobe change. I want to just take one quick minute here to say Cheshire High School football rules. There you go. My 18-year-old, they made the playoffs. They're ranked 8th in the state of Connecticut. They play tonight against number 1 seed St. Joe's. They got their work cut out for them, but I believe in them. My kid's a starting strong safety, outside linebacker. Depends. We'll see where he lines up today, but he's a monster kid. Connor. So love you, Connor. Go Cheshire Rams. Go Rams.
Wow, wasn't expecting that at all, but great. Go
I'm just
Rams.
saying. So anyway, I just want to represent.
Clear eyes, full hearts. Can't lose. All right.
Clear eyes, full heart, can't lose. Let's go Cheshire football. Let's go Cheshire football.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
When I said can't lose, I meant can't lose. I'm here with Lord Don't Lose and Jay Croucher. And yes, I do have multiple outfits that rep Cheshire football because you know what? The number 8 team in the state went into St. Joe's, took on the number 1 team in Connecticut that had only lost 1 game the entire year, and now they've lost 2. St. Joe's out, 14 points for St. Joe's, 24 points for Cheshire, 24-14. This is what it looks like when you beat the number 1 team in the state. Look at all those kids. There you go. Number 24 at the bottom of your screen. That is my kid Connor right there. Bunch of great kids. What a great game. Fantastic. Congratulations to the Cheshire Fighting Rams.
When you started speaking loudly, Matthew, I thought you were going to celebrate the Socceroos winning 1-0 against Denmark.
Listen, we're excited. We're excited about your Socceroos. Not as excited about the USA winning. Bring on Netherlands.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And by the way, Cheshire Rams now 4th in the state, top 4 in the state.
Unbelievable.
They're gonna finish at least top 4 in the state. They play New Canaan on Sunday. Another very, very good team here in the state. They've got their work cut out for them. But listen, they're also a good team. It'll be a hard-fought match between 2 great programs. So I'm thrilled for all the kids. A great team win. Big win. Underdogs. When you come in and you take on number 1 and you shut them down, it was a great win.
Not since the 18-0 Patriots went down in the Super Bowl to the Giants has there been such a momentous upset as we were talking about on the pre-call.
One parent said to me, "What do you think the line is? St. Joe's by 22?" And I'm like, "Listen,
definitely get the spread on that."
I said
money line straight up.
Yeah, exactly. I said Cheshire's absolutely covering.
Money line.
Anyway, so thrilled for all the kids. It's a bunch of great kids, and I've grown up. My kid's been playing football since 3rd grade, so I know all the kids. I know all the parents. For all the time my wife and I have been in the Cheshire community, and so anyway, just a great win. Thrilled for all the kids.
Congrats to the Rams.
So,
all right.
and we'll update you Monday on how they do against New Canaan. They play Sunday. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm seriously. They play New Canaan Sunday at 12:30.
Maybe you can dial into Football Night in America.
Football Night in America I can make. It's our show. It's Fantasy Football Pregame.
Dial into a fantasy football
pregame. Maybe I just do the first hour, and then I scoot to New Canaan. What are you doing Sunday? You want to fill in?
I want to go to the game with you. Yeah. That sounds like I'm trying to watch the
I got to figure out something that can cover for me so I can watch this game. All right. Let's get into I guess our Roto World headlines.
Let's get into Roto World headlines. Let's start off, Lawrence. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers. We don't talk about him much, but Aaron Rodgers, he got good news on his scans, and he plans to play against the Bears. So you're buying into Aaron Rodgers owning the Bears, kind of reigniting his season.
Yeah, 100%. Last 16 games versus the Bears, 42 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. So yes, that's like he's got their number. And he's not about to let Jordan Love start against the Bears because he'll do good.
Yeah.
Right? So you saw what Mike White did to him.
Wait, hang on for a second. You think Aaron Rodgers is legit worried about Jordan Love?
Not like that, though.
Okay,
It'll be like the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
Because look, Zach Wilson, we're in remembrance of him because
exactly.
Mike White went out there.
Did you get that on the discount rack? You didn't pay full price for that, right?
$2, like his jersey number.
Oh, my God.
So, look, he can't let, the way Jordan Love looked against the Eagles, you can't just, not Aaron Rodgers, I can't let this dude go light up the Bears. I have to do it because I own the Bears. And it's a good little, get-right game for him. So there you go. I'm with it for this week.
I actually think he's going to have a good game. I do think he's got one last good game in him. I'm with you. He's already said he's going to play. I mean, look, his last 2 healthy games, right? He wasn't necessarily healthy against the Eagles. He's had 19 or more fantasy points. He's had 2 or more passing touchdowns in 3 straight games. For his career against the Bears, to your point about owning the Bears, dude averages 19.5 fantasy points per game. He's had over 22 in 14 of 28 games. Like, he does, in fact, own the Bears. And this version of the Bears that just got lit up by Mike White.
There you go.
Yeah, I do think Aaron Rodgers, I could see him wanting to go out a little bit in a blaze of glory here.
Yeah.
Like, let me just go light up the Bears because their schedule gets a little bit dicier after that. I could see him like owning the Bears.
That's
and
when them ribs might creep back up. Them
ribs
might get to
him. It's hurting a little bit. Exactly. The abdomen, whatever. He'll figure it out. Yep. But I do actually think Rodgers is kind of it's insane to say, but I think he's a decently higher upside QB2 this week.
Yep, I'm with you. Green Bay, 4-point favorites in Chicago. What do we think of the wide receivers? Christian Watson, he's been eating touchdowns for fun. Do you like him over Allen Lazard this week?
I do. I'm at 25. Lazard comes in at 32 in my initial ranks here. Christian Watson has scored a touchdown in each of his last 3 games. He's got 6 touchdowns total. As you see on your screen there, 10 for 126 on 18 targets over just the last 3 games. I mean, so he's averaging double-digit. I'm sorry. He's averaging over 100 receiving yards in 2 of the last 3 games there, I should say. Like, Watson, I messed that up. I apologize. 20 targets for Watson, 18 for Lazard. I can't read my own full screen, Lawrence. I'll be super
honest.
Honestly, no, I'm going to be super honest. After we beat St. Joe's, I don't know what you guys were doing at midnight last night, but I was literally in a bar in Cheshire doing shots of Fireball.
You should have been. You should have been hyped up
in Connecticut. I swear to God, that's what I was doing. I was. Shout out to CJ Sparrows in Cheshire, Connecticut. I was there at like
smells like cinnamon.
Pretty much. I was there and someone bought shots. We're like, we're doing shots, like literally at midnight. And that someone, by the way, was my wife, Beth.
There you go.
So you understand who I married. Anyway, so it was a long night. But what I will tell you here is that just to give the video editor something to clip. Sorry guys. I think both guys are viable. I think Christian Watson and Allen Lazard are both high upside wide receiver 3s. Watson, the touchdowns have been ridiculous, 6 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Allen Lazard does have double-digit touchdown targets in 2 of the last 4. He scored a touchdown in 3 of the last 4 against Chicago. Again, we saw Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson go off against this Bears defense. My expectation here is that both guys have, certainly it's a good matchup.
Yeah.
And if Rodgers is healthy-ish, I'm more pro Green Bay this week than I normally am.
Yeah, like you said, I like both of them. More prone to go with Christian Watson over Allen Lazard, though, based on the last 3 outings. And this is the good thing about Christian Watson, right? He plays multiple roles. He could be the guy at the goal line, top target there. He's the guy to take the top off the defense. And you saw when he got with Jordan Love, he took an intermediate pass route and housed it. So give me Watson there.
Yep. All right, Lawrence, let's get to a less fireball type of headline.
Yeah.
That's that there's a report that Tevin Coleman could play a big role in the San Francisco backfield with Elijah Mitchell out. Do you like him over great names like Jordan Mason and Tyrion Davis-Price?
I would say this. I would say maybe, because why would they bring Tevin Coleman back again? Elijah Mitchell's out for a while. You got these 2 rookie running backs. Why bring back Tevin Coleman? His last, the last time he scored a touchdown earlier in the season, he had 11 touches for 26 yards, but he scored twice. The Niners have to win this game. It's a lot of jaw-japping going on in this game, the revenge game for Mike McDaniels. So maybe they just want to bring back a veteran who he trusts. Kyle Shanahan go way back with Tevin Coleman, so he probably like, I don't know about these rookies in this game, man.
Find somebody that looks at you the way Kyle Shanahan
But
looks
who
at
are you
Tevin
telling?
TC.
Find somebody that
It's like a rich man's Marlon Mack.
The fact that he is a rich man's Marlon Mack. But I think Lawrence hits it right on the head here. I think this is all about trust. I don't think this is about necessarily Tevin Coleman's explosiveness or that he thinks he's. I think it's just like, look, their season is Jimmy Garoppolo. As sad as that is to say, like when they lost Trey Lance and they got bailed out by the fact, because they tried to give Jimmy Garoppolo away, and he's basically saved their season. And you could argue they, on some level, saved their careers. But the fact is that if anything happens to Jimmy Garoppolo, who has struggled with injuries throughout his career, hard to see the 49ers overcoming that. So we need somebody that can help run this offense, that we trust in pass pro, that isn't Christian McCaffrey. And so you've got two rookies there. Shanahan's offense is really complicated. So just the familiarity with all the different audibles and all the different schemes that they call, I think that gives, no pun intended, a leg up to Tevin Coleman. Do we think the future is still bright for Tyrion Davis-Price and Jordan Mason? Yes, but I don't. For our purposes here in fantasy football, I would roster Tevin Coleman over either of those guys in a redraft league. You're not dropping TDP or Mason in a dynasty, but in a redraft league, if something were to happen to Christian McCaffrey, I feel like Tevin Coleman would get the majority of the work, just because, again, the familiarity with that offense, and Kyle Shanahan will give up some explosiveness just to get right. So anyway, ultimately though, I don't think any of them have fantasy relevancy other than as insurance to CMC. I don't see Coleman getting the Elijah Mitchell type workload.
Right.
Yep. All right, Matthew, let's pivot to another backfield in a bit of flux, and that's the New York Jets. The beat is saying that Zonovan Knight, Bam Knight, as he's more frequently known.
Bam Knight.
Yes, one of our viewers, actually, Tyler Colley, shouted out we should be using the term bandwagon more. We need to talk about it as the bandwagon. So thank you to Tyler for pointing that out.
That's a great one, Tyler. Good job. Yeah, I'm on the bandwagon.
Yeah, you're all in the bandwagon?
Yeah,
so
I'm on the bandwagon.
He's still available in 66%.
We talked about the fact that we don't know anyone in real life named. Would you go by Bam? Could we call you Bam?
Yeah.
Bam Jackson?
That's a great
I would go by Bam Bam, though.
Bam Bam.
Bam Bam Funkhauser?
Yeah, that just sounds like a smidget tougher. That's a little tougher when you got two Bams in there, like Bam Bam. Like,
right. Bam Knight only needs one. He's that tough. You, my friend, I've seen you out on the flag football field. You do need two Bams.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, like, whatever. He had 100 scrimmage yards in his debut. He's the first Jets player in franchise history to have more than 100 yards from scrimmage in his debut. Per our friends over at Pro Football Focus, he forced 9 missed tackles against the aforementioned Bears. And then you mentioned this matchup with Minnesota, where they're allowing 24 fantasy points per game to opposing running backs this season. Michael Carter not at practice today as we start the happy hour here on a Wednesday. It is just a Wednesday here, Jay and Lawrence, but feels like Bam Knight is, to your point, looks like even if Michael Carter comes back, Bam Knight has carved out a role in this offense, and given how productive this offense is, especially under Mike White, Bam Knight needs to be rostered in more than the 69% of Yahoo leagues that he's available in.
Yep.
More than the 34% that he's rostered in.
Yep.
I guess he's available in 66%.
Robert
Did
Saleh.
that math in my head, by the way.
Yeah.
Again, fire bar shots at midnight. I'm an old man.
Robert Saleh said that Bam Knight was juicy as a runner, getting north and south. Adding Knight was active over James Robinson because he thinks that his running style fits better with the Jets and what they want. No one's ever used the adjective juicy on me.
I was just going to say, like, where are you guys at on men calling other men juicy?
I'm extremely high on it,
I'm not calling nobody juicy when we talking about football. I'm not doing that.
Fair enough. I appreciate that.
Or we could say a juicy matchup.
A juicy matchup.
But I ain't saying somebody run juicy.
Right.
I already liked Robert Saleh's coach of the year case, and I think he just added another kind of feather in that belt, calling Bam Knight juicy. So
His
you're on the
odds is
bandwagon
juicy.
as well.
Right.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this scenario is Knight was already getting reps when Michael Carter was playing in the game. They were rotating in and out together. Once Michael Carter went down, obviously Ty Johnson got a little more run, but it was the Bam Knight show all day, and he got working the receiving game too. They're going up against Minnesota. We saw what Ramondre Stevenson did in the receiving game against them. So, and Michael Carter's not practicing. So this could be, he could be a nice little flex play out the gate.
This could be a juicy matchup. Is
Juicy
that what you're
matchup.
saying? This could be a juicy matchup.
That's what I'm saying.
It could be a juicy play and your flex. Someone needs to put Bam Knight highlights over Juice, the Lizzo song.
Yeah, okay.
Blame it on my juice.
Yeah, we can do that. We can make that happen.
Yeah, that'd
if
be
Robert
great.
Saleh won't do it personally. All right.
I like that song a lot. Have you ever heard that song?
I can't bring it to mind off the top of my head.
It's a great song.
It's all right. We'll play it
It's a great
during
song.
commercial break. And that's where we're going now.
Lizzo's awesome.
To break. We're all on the bandwagon. Juice is overflowing. When we come back, keep it open or close it out, including Mike Evans.
The Cheshire Rams bandwagon is wide open. Jump on.
Strap in. Giddy up.
Mike Evans was targeted 9 times. He only had 2 catches. Why is it that Tom and Mike seem to be out of sync at this point?
It's a good question. Some of them were defensive calls. Some of them we just missed it here and there. We got to get that fixed. We got to get them back on the same page. That struggle, it showed up yesterday. Not saying it was anybody's fault, but it did show up yesterday and it showed up a few games before that. We got to get that taken care of. That's crucial for our success. Not necessarily them two, there's quite a few other people over there as well. We just got to get on the same page, and we're not on the same page, and it shows.
Or close it out. Not been a great year for Todd Bowles. Not a great weekend for him either. Not putting the ball in Tom Brady's hands down the stretch.
Some people are great coordinators and should not be head coaches. Like, I always felt that about Norv Turner.
Nathaniel Hackett?
Very possibly Nathaniel Hackett.
Norv Turner's, he's the poster boy.
But Norv Turner's the poster boy for that. Norv Turner is as good an offensive coordinator, play caller as there's been in the history of the NFL. Was not a good head coach. Speaking as somebody who's a fan of Washington.
Yeah.
Josh McDaniels, jury's still out, but that might, didn't work out in Denver. Great in New England for so many years. So far, rocky road in Las Vegas. So, right, some people are just, I feeling like Todd Bowles might be one of those guys, too, because he's a great defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Give the man credit. Like, his defenses play, but, they handed you Tom Brady.
Not giving the ball to Brady at the end of the game because you're worried about him throwing an interception. Like, it's Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time against the Cleveland defense.
Of all time.
Of all time. So that was a bit tricky,
honestly, and I think the jury's still out as to whether Byron Leftwich should be a coordinator.
Yes.
Again, their offense is they really miss Bruce Arians. Let's just say that. But the question here about keep it open like we did last night after the Cheshire Rams
definitely
victory.
did last night.
Oh, yeah. Or close it out. Who's our first one?
Well, it's Mike Evans, and it's basically, are you benching them for this week, just this week, or are you riding with them? And Matthew, are you keeping it open with Mike Evans?
Guys that you've normally been starting, obviously, so keep it open or close it out. I'm going to keep it open. Now, I reserve the right to change this in the first hour of Fantasy Football pregame on Sunday.
Okay.
I'm only guaranteeing that I'll be here for the first hour. The second hour is still up for debate. But I'm going to keep it open, especially because we don't know if Marshawn Lattimore is going to play in this one. He missed the game against San Francisco. He has struggled traditionally against the Saints, but that has always been with Marshawn Lattimore playing, basically Lattimore seems to always have Evans' number. Like, the career numbers of Evans versus Lattimore is not good, right? He's got, I think, other than that one September 2018 game, I think he's got 1 touchdown against Lattimore in the past 11 games. But with Lattimore potentially missing this game, and it's the Monday night game, so we may not know. I don't know. To me, I'm betting on talent. I'm betting on volume and talent. Mm-hmm. Since week 7, he's averaging over 10 targets a game. Mm-hmm. They haven't connected. The fact that Todd Bowles is being asked about it, make no mistake. Tom Brady's aware of it. Mike Evans aware of it. Brady is one of those guys that sort of likes to always feed his guys. Like, I'm keeping it open with Mike Evans.
Now, in Australia, we have a saying that when you own someone, you make them your bunny. So, for instance, like me and our producer, Brian Rubin, we play table tennis a lot, and I always beat him. So Brian's like my bunny.
Right.
It's like, the famous one is
Hear
cricket.
that,
It's only for our Australian audience, but Daryl Cullinan was Shane Warne's bunny. So Marshawn Lattimore has kind of made Mike Evans his bunny. You buying into that, Lawrence, so you
And by the way, I would also like to offer that if you would like Brian Rubin to be your bunny, he's available.
We can make that happen. I got to beat him in ping pong?
Yeah, but you can do that.
Right. I got that.
Pretty much anything. Honestly, just whatever. He's sort of the show bunny.
The bad of it is Mike Evans. Bad bunny. The bad of this is Mike Evans averaging only 3 catches and 41 over the last 3 games. But you mentioned the targets. In 4 of the last 5, he's seen at least 9 targets. And again, I'll say this. I'm going to keep this open, right? But it's going to be sippy sips. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to keep it open. But if Marshawn Lattimore end up playing, I'm closing it. Not because he's going to shut him down, because they're going to get to scrapping and they ain't going to finish the game.
They might not. He
That's
has.
true.
This
So
is
I
true.
don't even know.
Mike Evans has been ejected from previous games against the Saints because him and Marshawn Lattimore get
Like
into
you
it.
on fantasy football pregame on Sunday. You might get
little
ejected
bit.
halfway through.
I might just start a fight with Michael Smith so I get thrown out for the second half. I might just do that. I might,
Be me
like
talking
get
about
in his
cricket.
face.
Yeah.
Exactly. I might
To
just
bring
get in
down
his
the
face,
Socceroos.
and HR will have to separate us, and then I get to go watch my kid play. Like I'll pull a Melvin Gordon. I'll fumble. You know what I mean? Maybe
Now I'm on the Chiefs.
Right now I'm on the Chiefs. Exactly. I might curse. Maybe I'll curse on air or
when you
something
can.
like that. I'll figure it out. I got a couple of days to formulate a game plan.
Just
of how
let
I
me
get out
know.
of that
Let
second
me know
hour.
what you're going to do.
All right, Lawrence. Yeah. Just
Look,
be on standby. That's all I'm asking.
I think the Mike Evans thing is a little bit overblown this season just because outside of the touchdowns, which are more fluky,
Right.
he's been fine. He's on pace for similar yards, receptions, all of that.
Yep,
the
yep,
touchdowns, it's a worse offense. That's the problem.
Yep.
But the touchdowns, I think, will come from
Again,
Mike Evans.
right. I'm always talent and opportunity. We know Mike Evans is super talented. Tom Brady's still super talented, by the way, and he's getting the opportunity. It hasn't cashed in, and we know Brady's been unlucky with the touchdowns just overall, especially given the amount of times he's passing it. We saw a big Chris Godwin game last week. I think, especially if Lattimore's out, I think Evans actually potentially could have a big game on Monday night.
Yep,
They
okay.
need something to make that game interesting,
They do. Now, a little bit-
especially in states where betting isn't legal.
Yes. Now,
Right.
I'm a bit more worried about Deontay Johnson Lawrence, who has a relatively favorable matchup against Atlanta, but has really underperformed so far this year, keeping it open or closing it out on Deontay.
It is Atlanta. You start everybody against Atlanta. But for this one, I'm keeping it closed. I would not have been with Matthew last night taking them shots of fireball because my tab would have
Well,
been so closed on
we're
this.
behind.
I can't deal with the fact that Deontay Johnson is the third leading receiver as far as yards go, despite the fact that he leads the team in receptions. So that means he's getting these receptions just here, get me right here. You got me. Nah, man, I'm keeping this closed. George Pickens is the guy now. And Freiermuth is doing his thing, too.
So, NFL players, you know when the last
go.
time Deontay Johnson has scored a touchdown?
Uh-oh. When is
Week
Matthew?
17 of last year.
Sure. That's not
Like,
good.
they're like, take a look at this list. Take a look at this list here on your screen of Pittsburgh Steelers, current Pittsburgh Steelers that have scored a touchdown more recently than Deontay
James
Johnson.
Washington.
Wow.
James Washington.
Derek what?
Yes, Derek.
Not
Derek
even
Watt.
TJ.
Is he related to JJ?
Yes, Minka Fitzpatrick, Mitch Trubisky.
Minka.
Right? I mean, like, Benny Snell, like, right. I mean, like, some of them are obvious. Like,
man.
Chase Claypool's on the Bears. And he even has scored a touchdown more recently than Deontay
Derek
Johnson.
Watt's the one.
I mean,
That's
Derek Watt, I
ridiculous.
mean, like.
Minka's pretty
Minka's pretty, really.
James
like,
Washington.
Yeah.
Yes.
James Washington. And so, some other players just in the NFL that have scored a touchdown more recently than Deontay Johnson. Currently retired Danny Amendola has scored a touchdown more recently than Deontay
Yeah.
Johnson. Ito Smith.
My boy, Ito. Wait, I wonder what he's doing right now.
He's, I'll tell you what he's not
he
doing.
at the bar
Playing in the
in Chester?
NFL.
He ain't getting no touchdowns.
He's not getting any touchdowns, and yet he still has seen the end zone more recently
That's wild.
than Deontay Johnson. Ito Smith of your beloved Falcons.
What a
Freddie
guy.
Swain has scored more recently.
Big
Jaquan Hardy. Hard
Knocks guy.
Hard knock
Yeah.
superstar Jaquan Hardy in Week 18 of last year. He scored a touchdown more recently. But here's the all-time favorite. Le'Veon Bell. The ghost of Le'Veon Bell has scored
Shout
a
out to
touchdown.
Le'Veon Bell.
Fantasy football royalty.
Between rap albums and boxing matches, Le'Veon Bell has still managed to score a touchdown more recently than Deontay Johnson. That's where we are. That's
Man.
where we are as a society today. It's unbelievable, and you're like, well, he's just not getting any targets. Oh, no. He's had over 50 targets. He's gotten many opportunities to score touchdowns, and yet he's not been able to do so. Not once this entire year. Not in Week 18 of last year. Like,
That's
I mean,
wild.
it's
They even gave him the extra week. He still couldn't do it, huh?
we started a GoFundMe. It hasn't happened. We're holding a telethon for it. It doesn't happen. It doesn't. You understand? I mean, like, it's I don't. We are making sacrificial, to the gods. We are praying to, whatever deity you pray to. We have made, sacrifices to every single one of them, trying to get Deontay Johnson into the end zone. Like even Michael Pittman last week. Michael Pittman was like, oh man, like I can't be like that. Even I'll score a touchdown. Fine. Like, you know what I mean?
What's
like,
the backup tight end from the Dolphins? Smythe.
Durham Smythe. Durham Smythe. Like, I'll do it.
Everybody gets a touchdown.
Everyone has scored.
You want George Pickens over him rest of the way?
No. Oh, yes, I do. No. Yes, I do. Oh, yeah, yes. I thought you meant do I want, yeah. I thought you were asking me the reverse. No, yes, give me George Pickens over Deontay Johnson. I mean, look, here's the thing. George Pickens, 60 targets, 107.4 fantasy points on PPR basis. Deontay Johnson, 92. Like, literally like 50% more targets. 107.8 PPR points. They have the exact same number of fantasy points, despite the fact Johnson has 32 more targets on the season. He's had single-digit fantasy points in 5 of the last 6 games. I am closing it out. He's my wide receiver 33 this week, outside my top 30. Don't like him on the road in Atlanta, and I'll tell you why. Because everyone else, we've done everything possible to get him in the end zone until this. I'm going on national television. I am saying I am benching him against your crappy Falcons. And so by doing that.
And that's how you know.
And by doing that, that means he will go off. Because if I recommended, if I said stick with him, he would continue to stink.
Yes.
But because I am finally saying I'm out, and if this doesn't do it, I don't know what to do, guys. But I'm out. I'm out on Deontay Johnson. There's only so many, 8.6 games I can take. I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm over 40.
I won't take 8.6. Lawrence, Gabe Davis gets a tough matchup against New England on Thursday night. Are you closing it out on Gabe Davis, who's been very inconsistent?
Yeah, I'm closing this one out. I think I know how Matthew going to feel about this one, but there you go. The last 5 games, 35, 33, 93, 68. It's way too many 30s up in there for me, especially against this defense. Yes, this defense just got lit up by Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and the Vikings.
And Adam Thielen.
Yes.
And Adam Thielen. And he scored a touchdown. But, we noticed the NFL, that could be an anomaly. You got a low over-under in this game, too. So he was outdone by Isaiah McKenzie last week. So that could happen from time to time. Also, he could have a 79-yard touchdown. But I'm not banking on it this week. I'm closing it.
Here's the thing. In games in which he scores a touchdown, he's averaging 22 fantasy points per game. 22.2 to be specific. Games he doesn't score a touchdown, 6.6.
Yeah.
So really, it's going to come down to, how lucky do you feel? Do you think he gets in the end zone here? But what I'm going to tell you here, and I'm going to tell both of you guys this, I'm going to tell America this. Here's the thing on Gabe Davis.
Here we go. Yeah. Talk to me,
Look,
Matthew.
I've said this before. Gabe Davis is East Coast Mike Williams. You cannot do this. You cannot. Is this a good matchup? Is this? It doesn't matter the matchup. He is matchup proof, as is Josh Allen. We've seen him have big games and awful matchups. We've seen him completely lay an egg in great matchups.
Right.
Doesn't matter. So my point here is what I'm going to say is that if you are closing it out on Gabe Davis, you're closing it out for the year.
Yeah.
Again, you cannot sit there and say, I think this is a Gabe Davis week. I think it's not. You either have to always start him and never question it, or always bench him and not pull your hair out when he goes off. Because there's a chance that he catches, 2 balls for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's got that kind of ability. He's also got the, 3 for 38 kind of ability. Oof. So I'm probably still sticking with him because I've just sort of made my bed with Gabe Davis, and I'm like, I'm starting him. But I will say he comes in at wide receiver 35. Yeah. I mean, in terms of where I rank, there's obviously a lot more risk with him. Yeah. It's a very risk-reward play. So, but I'm just saying to you guys, if you're closing them out, you're closing them out for the year.
I'm always a Gabe closer-outer.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so far that's been better for you than for me.
Yeah. It's a philosophical thing. It's like kind of if you're all in, if you like the film Interstellar, and you're all in on the magical bookshelf, bookcase there, or you're out on Interstellar and you're like, no, this movie's garbage, doesn't make any sense. Yeah. You're either Gabe Davis in or Gabe Davis out, and you just got to stick that way. You can't decide to like Interstellar.
Yeah, can you explain the ending of that one too?
No, absolutely not. It's like the Matrix Revolution. It's like, if I was to explain it,
I was just going to ask you, can we just do a segment of you explaining the ending and ruining the ending of all Christopher Nolan movies?
Yes.
They drive me nuts because I'm like, this is super interesting. Wait, what does that mean?
I still don't understand how DiCaprio got out of limbo in Inception. He just kind of woke up.
Whatever, and it's spinning and it's slightly, and you're.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, that's kind of the
Christopher Nolan
same
drives me
feeling.
crazy
That's the same
same way
They're
with
very
Gabriel Davis.
Yeah. But I agree with what you're saying, though. Like, you in or you out of it.
Right, exactly. I don't think stats matter. I don't think matchup
Not for
matters.
him,
for
it
Gabe
don't.
Davis.
It don't.
He's matchup agnostic. Now, a guy's probably not matchup agnostic as we pivot from Leonardo DiCaprio to Darius Slayton.
Sure.
Matthew, keeping it open or closing it out on Slayton against your Commanders?
Yeah, I'm closing it out on Darius Slayton. He's had one game with more than 5 receptions in a single game. Since week 9, my Commanders, you know what they've done? They've taken command. They have taken command.
Getting really
Exactly.
sick of that. Getting really sick of it.
They're like the Cheshire Rams. They're like the pro football version of Cheshire Rams, coming on at the right time, just gaining steam and momentum. They've been a really
7-5.
good defense. They are on the road at New York, and yet they're 2.5-point favorites. Do you remember the last time, Jay, you might know this, when was the last time Washington was a favorite on the road?
Yeah, not
Was that-
one that comes to immediate memory.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's been more recent? Washington a favorite on the
Is it?
road
Yeah.
or Deontay Johnson scoring a touchdown?
Maybe the RG3 season?
It's like, dudes. So I just, Slayton for me, like the positives here are that, like, last 4 weeks he's gotten a 21% target share. He's a big play waiting to happen. But I also think that they're limited they're limited in their passing attack. This is a tough matchup against my Commanders here. The over-under is 40.5. Like, we expect this to be a low-scoring game. My expectation is from New York, especially given the defense. It's a lot of Saquon Barkley. I think this is a grinded-out game between both teams. And they may take a deep shot or two to Darius Slayton, but I'm going to close it out on him against my Commanders. He needs that one big play. I'm not convinced he gets it.
Yeah, so I actually like Darius Slayton as a player, but I got to close it for this week. Is if I'm going to close it on Gabe Davis, I'm going to close it on the guy who's like Diet Gabe Davis. Like,
Gabe Davis.
He need that big
Diet
play.
Davis.
Yeah,
Diet Davis.
Yeah, so he's going to need that big play, and could he get it? Hell yeah, he can get it, but I'm not waiting around on that on a game that has an over-under of 40.5, so I got to close it. But I'll holler at you next week, Slay. Maybe we'll open that back up.
Put it back up. All right. The most interesting name to me on this list, maybe not for keep it open, close it out. I think you're keeping it open on this guy, but just long-term outlook. Damian Pierce, who has completely disappeared, like all rationale disappeared in Interstellar. Damian Pierce just hasn't done anything for 2 weeks in a row. Now he gets the Cleveland run defense, which famously allows everyone to cook.
Yeah.
Keeping it open on Damian Pierce, Lawrence.
Oh, man, I didn't even decide this until like 30 seconds ago, man, because them last two
Ringing in
games
your head the whole
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
last 2 games is ugly. And watching Kyle Allen play quarterback last week, he had the ball back there like this. He's shaking like so. The defense only has to focus on Damian Pierce, right? Then when they when they finally got close to scoring, they finally dragged themselves up there. Dare Ogunbowale gets the touchdown, and they were still in the game because Damian Pierce played after that, right? Man.
What's going on there?
I know it's Cleveland.
I think they might be tanking, but
I'm closing.
I'm
closing.
keeping it open. I'm absolutely
I
keeping
think
it
you have
open.
to
I'm
keep
keeping it open. Damian Pierce is too talented. This matchup is too good. He's actually running back 13 for me. Browns give up the second most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. This is a guy who, from weeks 3 through 10, had 12 or more fantasy points in every single week. I get it, under 5 fantasy points each of the last 2 weeks. This matchup is too good. The volume is too good there for me to fade Damian Pierce here. I think they got enough look at Kyle Allen like, oh, we don't want that guy throwing. And also, by the way, so this is going to be Deshaun Watson's first game.
Bingo.
And I am the Texans have played sort of sneaky defense so far this year. Like, they haven't been awful. Just on a scale. If you grade it on a scale.
Yeah, they're not.
They're
Not the worst defense in football.
Considering
Close.
their record that they've won only 1 game, they are not the worst defense in football, despite the fact they have the worst record in football.
Yes.
Is that fair?
It's
Yes,
just a
very,
culmination of everything.
It's a
Comically
combination.
bad run defense, pass defense, not worst team in football.
Their pass defense is 16th against the pass over the last 4 weeks. Part of that is because teams run so successfully on them. Teams are up against them. They don't actually have to throw. But they've played. My point is they're not a complete fire dumpster of a disaster in pass defense the way they are in run defense. And so given the fact that, A, Cleveland is rarely run heavy to begin with, and it's Watson's first game, and they're going to he's probably going to be somewhat rusty, My expectation here is it's a heavy Nick Chubb game for a variety of reasons here. And I also think it'll be an emotional game for the Texans and, all the headlines that'll surround Watson's return to the NFL. And so I think it's a closer game than probably people may think. As a result, I think, and I definitely think Houston's not going to want Watson to come in there and light him up. So they're going to want to continue to establish the run.
At the same time,
regardless of the scoreboard, I'm keeping it open on Dameon Pierce. I'm keeping it open.
Yep, I agree. I think this is the kitchen sink game for Houston, and they run Dameon Pierce. All right, we're going to go to break.
By the way,
I'm going to start him then.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad I convinced you. But I'll just say, after Cleveland, at Dallas, home to Kansas City, at Tennessee, right,
no, I'm
home
not
to
starting.
Jacksonville. I'm just saying, like,
he's done.
This may be your last week. I'm just something to think about. If I'm in a dynasty league where my trade deadline is still open,
right.
and you're going for it this year,
Sure.
he may be an interesting
All
trade.
right, we're going to break. When we come back, fantasy playoff schedules.
Fantasy playoff schedules.
Download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster and get the latest injury updates, player news, plus much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right, let's talk notable fantasy playoff schedules, gentlemen. Weeks 15 through 17. Start with quarterbacks. Matthew, start with you. Dak Prescott, who goes Week 15 at Jacksonville. Week 16, home to Philadelphia, then at Tennessee. Do you think this Cowboys offense is about to take off?
I do. I mean, so you mentioned Jacksonville, 8th most fantasy points game to opposing quarterbacks. Tennessee, 6th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks as well. He's had 2 or more passing touchdowns now in 4 straight games. And so the only defense in there that scares you is Philadelphia, but that's a home game in Dallas. And
Green Bay just lit them up as well.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I do think we've seen some some cracks in the wall that is the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Yep. Dak is getting more healthy as well. Remember the last time they played him, Cooper Rush was under center. Eagles haven't played the Cowboys with Dak at full strength, with their offense at full strength here. So I do think this Cowboys offense, and specifically Dak Prescott and the guys he likes to target, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, maybe a little bit more Tony Pollard, a little bit more Michael Gallup here. I do think the passing offense specifically of the Cowboys about to take off. How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, and you look at the Week 15 matchup with Jacksonville, you could see that being a back-and-forth game because their offense is playing better. And then if you get to the Week 17 matchup, the only way you're going to beat the Titans is by passing. That's something that the Bengals and Chiefs know very well. You're not going to run against them. So we do like this Dallas offense as a whole. We like all the players in it. I even like Zeke in it too. You know what I'm saying?
He's getting enough volume. They're in scoring position often enough. By the way, I don't know Dak Prescott at all. I've met him once in my life, briefly for like 20 seconds. So I can't say I know the man at all. But I would think that if I were Dak Prescott, and I would sit there and be like, man, everything I've done in my career, and now everyone wants to talk about Jalen Hurts as the best quarterback in the NFC East.
Right.
Matthew Berry named him his ride or die, not me, Dak Prescott. Why was I not Matthew Berry's ride or die? I wasn't even Jay Croucher's ride or die. I wasn't even Jay Croucher's ride or die. He chose Lamar Jackson, who hasn't been as good as me. Again, this is in Dak's mind.
Yeah, I was vocalize the inner thoughts of
anyway,
Mr. Prescott.
that Eagles Cowboys game 2 weeks from now, pretty interesting.
I'm going to say the Cowboys win that game. I think the line will be -2 about that. Cowboys favored. I think they are going to run over the Eagles. I think they're the better team. We will see.
That'll be interesting to see. Maybe
going to
place
be
a
on
bet
the
right
line.
now.
Yeah,
There's probably a future line on it, right?
Yeah. We can have a look. But let's jump to Tom Brady, who has definitely been underwhelming this year, Lawrence. But his fantasy schedule, the first 2 games in the playoffs, home to Cincinnati, at Arizona. That Cincinnati defense is decimated in the secondary. And then Week 17, Carolina, who he did not have a good game against a few weeks ago. What do you think of Tom Brady if he's your QB1 going into the playoffs?
Yeah, so if, that Cincinnati game, right, that I don't know that I would actually start him that game just because the offense in the passing game isn't humming with Mike Evans, as they mentioned before. If you had a better option for that week, I would explore that. If you could get to that Arizona matchup, well, then let it rip. Then throw him right in there. You in the semifinals of your fantasy leagues by then. He looked awful against the Panthers the first go round, but the Bucs will likely be playing for a playoff spot or a division spot if the Falcons keep, if the Bucs and the Falcons keep losing at the same pace. So they'll need that game too. So it's a nice, okay schedule. I would pick and choose the spots.
Yeah, hard to just sort of blanket, keep starting him after the season he's had. But I do think there's a lot of positive signs, right?
Yes.
Which is that Godwin back healthy, Evans there. We've even gotten some Julio sightings out there as well. The volume in terms of the passing has always been there for Tom Brady. The touchdowns are finally starting to come around here. To your point about Arizona, 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. And oh, by the way, they're on a bye this week. So Arizona's going to have 2 weeks to prepare for Tom Brady, 2 weeks to get Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins, and hopefully Rondell Moore is healthy as well by that game. And so finally a full complement of weapons for Kyler Murray, so that game could have a lot of explosiveness. Cincinnati doesn't actually scare me all that much. They're a bottom 12 pass defense over the last month. And so I do think Tom Brady isn't matchup driven. You know what I mean? Again, the volume has consistently been there. It's just whether you buy it or not. That's the fantasy playoff schedule, I should say. So I'm off on that. But they're not playing Cincinnati this week. They're obviously playing New Orleans. And so the Arizona matchup, they will have already been out of their bye. Whatever. The fact remains the same, though, is that there are shootout potential, given the Buccaneers' defense has been inconsistent somewhat this year. They're playing better recently. But against Joe Burrow, against Kyler Murray, against Sam Darnold, the fact is there's a chance, at least for the first 2 of those games, there's a chance that there's a bit of a shootout, and Brady's got to throw to keep up with the guy on the other side.
Yep. All right, let's pivot to a Tagovailoa. And before we get into his difficult fantasy schedule, he's still having a good time on the sidelines with his coach, Mike McDaniel.
Yes.
Yeah, Georgia is definitely the best SEC school, without a shadow of a doubt. God, I'm so glad Tua can't hear me.
You heard him. You heard him, guys. I got swag. Dude, that's you.
Do you hear what Tua just said? Anybody? It's a dangerous indicator that you don't have swag. He just told me, you heard those guys, they think I have swag. That's how you know you don't.
That was Mike McDaniel just trolling Tua on the side.
Yeah, that's right.
Mike McDaniel, probably the funniest coach that we've had.
I mean, there's no question.
The clock, nice thing that went kind of viral on Twitter, that was perfect as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Belichick's obviously hilarious, but other than him,
yeah, it's a 1-2 punch.
Other than him, McDaniel is sort of that guy.
Diamond in the bottom.
McDaniel's awesome. How do you not root for that
He's
guy?
A cool little guy.
We love it.
He's a cool little guy.
He is. He's great. And by the way, I agree. I was going to talk about how much swag I have, but you know what? I'm not going to mention it. I'm just going to.
Because if you got to say it, then
you don't got it.
Just
you ain't got it.
Let the swag sit.
Exactly.
Guy's been playing with a lot of swag this year is Tua Tagovailoa, who has been outstanding. He's the 3rd favorite for MVP, which was very long coming into the season. He does have a very difficult fantasy playoff schedule, though, Matthew, and now he's got this Teron Armstead injury to navigate. That's
a concern. The playoff schedule is at Buffalo, home to Green Bay, at to New England. So 2 cold weather games against divisional opponents and 2 good defenses. And so he's been so good that it's hard to sort of ignore that. And but you do worry a little bit there about Tagovailoa on the road at those 2 matchups, home to Green Bay, and between those 2 should be better. And I think at that point, maybe he'll be facing off against Jordan Love. We'll see how that all plays out here. But I do think the production for Tagovailoa will drop somewhat in the playoffs. So if you've been riding him and that Dolphins offense to get into the playoffs, just something to keep an eye on, and depending on what other options you have.
There will be people out there who drafted Tua as their second quarterback and who have Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, whoever as their QB1, and they might be more playable in certain matchups than Tua, Lawrence. I know Tua's your guy.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people. I actually drafted Tua in certain leagues where I didn't have Hurts and Jackson. I just drafted Tua to be my guy. So now, and I see these difficult matchups now, I'm not going into these I wouldn't go into these games thinking, three touchdowns, 300 yards. It's not going to happen. Like you say, the Bills and the Patriots are both in there. That's who he had his 2 lowest scoring outputs against when he played the full game. So He's not going to crumble, but you just can't expect him to light it up like he in Miami.
Yep.
Under 15 fantasy points in each of those two games.
Yeah.
The last two healthy games he played against the Bills and the Patriots, under 15 fantasy points in both of them.
Yep. Let's see how he goes against that Niners defensive line without Teron Armstead as well. I'll be a little bit concerned about that.
That'll be a learning moment for all of us.
Yes, indeed it will, Matthew. Very well said. All right, let's get to running backs, and a guy with an easy schedule, which he's going to need because he's not being good, is Alvin Kamara, Matthew. His schedule goes home to Atlanta, at Cleveland, at Philadelphia, so about as good as it gets. Any light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, I mean, and they're going to get Jordan Davis back by this time, right? I just saw earlier today that they've started the window to activate him, the 21-day window. So you expect Davis to be back for the Eagles. So that'll certainly help their run defense, and maybe, Sue and Joseph also get them some more quality snaps here. But, yeah, I'm standing by because my expectation here is that the usage should be enough. Like, he's not going to be the number one running back that he was drafted as, that candidly I ranked him as other people did as well. But the shocking thing is the reason Alvin Kamara was falling in drafts was people were worried he was going to be suspended.
Right.
No one had a question about the talent or the usage, especially with what we expected to be Jameis Winston under center. The numbers with him under center last year were great. The problem is that with Andy Dalton, the red pop gun, as I like to call him.
Yeah, that's
right,
what he look
honestly,
like.
right? You can't call him a rifle.
No.
Maybe by the playoffs we'll have back Jameis Winston.
Bring back Jameis. Like, we're begging for Jameis. Team Jameis here.
Yeah.
Can we take the money we raised to get Deontay Johnson a touchdown and just transfer it over to the Saints to get Jameis Winston back under center, free Alvin Kamara? Like, you see it there on your screen. You saw it there on your screen, just the lack of overall usage for a running back as talented as Kamara, and obviously the lack of fantasy production. But yes, better days are ahead for Alvin Kamara. I know it has been tough, and there's a chance you haven't made the playoffs because of Alvin Kamara. But if you manage to sneak in, better days are ahead. Falcons, Browns, Eagles.
Yep. Lawrence, let's jump to Isaiah Pacheco. Chiefs play at Houston Week 15 versus the Seattle team that did not look good at all against the Raiders, and then against Denver, whose defense is tailing off a little bit. Now, Melvin Gordon complicates things, but how are you feeling about Isaiah Pacheco?
Melvin Gordon does complicate things, and if you take away Melvin Gordon's fumbles, it'd be like, hey, Chiefs got their best running back right now, and that's not even a question. But Isaiah Pacheco is taking advantage of these opportunities, and he's not just it's not just massive volume that he's getting. Like, he's being efficient when he runs the ball. So if I see Houston on the schedule, Seattle, I'm feeling like I got an RB2 who I could play in my flex.
I love, Lawrence, that you said if you take away Melvin Gordon's fumbles.
Got to take away the fumbles.
If you took away my face and my entire body and replaced it with Ryan Gosling's face and body, I'd look better.
Right. If you took away my male pattern baldness, right? You'd be
Connor Rodgers.
I'd be Connor Rodgers, exactly. I'd be like, yeah, exactly. I would rule the world is what I would do. But the other thing here that I think is important about Pacheco is Houston, Seattle, Denver. The expectation here is, I don't think you're not worried about Kansas City in any of those games, especially against Houston or Denver. So you're looking at very positive game script, wanting to get the rookie some more touches, some easy touches, maybe a touchdown or two there because they're going to be up by so much, especially in the second half. Seattle might be able to hang with them for a little bit, but Denver and Houston, not so much.
Yep. All right, let's jump to wide receivers. Start off with a guy who's been revived, and he has an easy schedule of past defenses to come, and that's Garrett Wilson. Yeah. Matthew, how much upside does this Mike White offense provide Wilson against Detroit, Jacksonville, and at Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, quite a lot, obviously. I mean, look, the Lions allow the third most fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers. We know Jacksonville has struggled defensively. Seattle has struggled defensively. As good as Seattle's season has been, I mean, they are, they're 19th against the pass over the last month, right? And, Jacksonville also is 31st against the pass. Only one team has been worse in the last 4 weeks than the Jaguars. So, Garrett Wilson, who's super talented, right? We know that. We see, whether even with Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson still had 90 receiving yards in 3 of the last 4. So the expectation here is that with Mike White under center, Garrett Wilson probably a borderline top 20 play over the fantasy playoffs. Like, you could see Garrett Wilson having an Amon-Ra, St. Brown type run for a rookie wide receiver coming on, towards the end. Wilson's had more fantasy success prior to the fantasy playoffs than Amon-Ra did last year.
Right.
And then, he just went crazy, Amon-Ra.
Yeah, and you could tell coming in after the Week 11 game where everybody on the Jets was pissed and they was talking to Garrett Wilson, he was just like, hey, he didn't even know what to say. He was just like, this got to change. He definitely don't miss the guy on this shirt right now. It's the Mike White show. So, yeah, man, we feeling good about that. Detroit, that could be a shootout. Jacksonville, all game shootouts. We love it.
Bit more of a stable quarterback situation in Philadelphia, Lawrence, for A.J. Brown, who has a very favorable schedule as well. At Chicago, who Mike White just lit up. At Dallas, and then home to New Orleans. How are you feeling about A.J. Brown coming into the fantasy playoffs?
I'm going to feel good about him coming into the fantasy playoffs. Near the end, though, it could get tricky, though. It's a division game. The division could be on the line. You never know how those are going to go. I like Devontae Smith going forward as well, too. And then we'll see whenever Dallas Goedert is supposed to come back. Week 17, the Saints, maybe they'll have Marshawn Lattimore back, Cam Jordan. That part of the schedule I'm not as sure about, but it's not like you're going to start them, obviously, but I like the jump off at Week 15.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous, too. I guess for our purposes, what does that mean? You're still likely starting him, you know what I mean? I can't imagine. But I'll just look. They're at Chicago, right? Cold weather game, a game they should dominate. We know Philadelphia is going to want to go run heavy, period. And a game that they should dominate the Bears, right? I mean, they might be facing Trevor Siemian, or Nathan Peterman at that. It's trending towards it. Feels like Justin Fields gets shut down for the rest of the year. Nothing's been officially announced yet, but that game's in Chicago. So a cold weather game in December. Against a team they should kill. You feel like that's a run-heavy game.
Yeah.
Then they're at Dallas, right? And so obviously the Cowboys have a very good defense, and they'll focus a lot of attention on A.J. Brown. And then they're home to New Orleans. And we expect Lattimore to be back there, and Lattimore probably shadows him. And so, again, you're still starting A.J. Brown. I don't know that there's anything you can do. Most leagues have had their trade deadline already.
Yep.
So they're you're sort of stuck there. But, yes, would I lower expectations for A.J. Brown? Am I a bit nervous as a manager with A.J. Brown on a number of teams in the fantasy playoffs? A little bit, yeah.
Yep, I think the Saints defense is going to finish the season a lot better than it started. They're only 3.5-point dogs at Tampa Bay on Monday night, so they're going to get better, and that's going to be a concerning matchup. All
is that a pro New Orleans line, or is that a Tampa Bay ain't it line?
Anti-T-Bowls, anti-T-Brady. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's going to be a very ugly game, as those games tend to be.
We're
going to go to break. When we come back, we'll give you our picks to win the $100,000 jackpot in the free Sunday Night 7 Predictor Contest. The NFL season is here, and the NBC Sports Predictor app is giving you a shot at winning $100,000 by entering Sunday Night 7's free contest between the Colts and the Cowboys. So if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. It is free. Time for last call.
Yeah. And by the way, with $100,000, maybe Deontay Johnson could buy a touchdown.
Yeah, maybe he could.
If you're watching Deontay Johnson, you should try to enter.
I believe in you,
and try to win $100K.
Lawrence, let's start with you. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor's rushing yards.
Yeah, so I'm going to go 75 to 89 here. He's had 86 and 84 in each of the past two games, so give me that number there versus Dallas.
All right, Matthew, CeeDee Lamb receiving yards.
Yeah, NBC Sports Predictor gives you a bunch of different options here, and CeeDee Lamb's been great. Tons of targets, obviously, 11 or more in two of the last two games. He's had over 100 receiving yards. And excuse me.
The fireball.
The fireball. Two of the last three games. But, of course, the Colts, very good. They give the fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb, just too good. Dak, too good. Give me the 85 to 94 option.
All right. Well, Matthew finds himself again. I'm going to talk about the total points in the game. Brian Robertson likes big hats. I like big bands. Give me 0 to 37 points. I'm not sure the Colts get to double digits in this one. And the Colts defense is fine. So I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, and it goes 0 to 37. All right. Quickly, let's talk about Sorry, go ahead.
What are you going to say about Ben? I was just going to say real quickly, Fantasy Life app giving me some great news alerts here. Real quickly, Najee Harris status up in the air this week. Doesn't look like a significant injury. Kyle Pitts officially out for the year, according to Arthur Smith. Feel free to drop him in redraft leagues if you haven't already as well. Raheem Mostert should be good to go this week. Jamar Chase says he's preparing to play this week. We'll see how it feels. And by the way, the Bears have signed Tim Boyle to their active roster.
That's a big one.
Taking him from the Lions practice squad. You feel like, because they've already got Simeon, they've already got Nathan Peterman, the fact that they feel the need to roster a third quarterback on their active roster and pay him. So, I don't know. My feeling is that Justin Fields is going to be shut down for the year.
Sure. Very quickly, let's talk about BetMGM's NFC conference odds. All odds courtesy of our friends at BetMGM. The Cowboys are plus 350. They're the third favorite behind the Eagles and the Niners. I think the Cowboys might be the best team in the NFC, but I wouldn't back them at that price just because the Eagles are in line to get the 1 seed. My favorite bet of these? Geno Smith, Seattle Seahawks, plus 3,000. They've got a pretty easy schedule rest of the way, and I believe in that offense. I think the defense should be better than it was against
Let's
the
hear
Raiders
it for
as
my
well.
Commanders, plus 4,000, making the list. Making the list. They are taking command. I believe in Ron Rivera. I probably wouldn't bet.
Riverboat Ron.
Wouldn't bet the 40 to 1.
I wouldn't bet the plus 400.
Better than 200 to 1. 200 to 1.
Where are the Falcons at on this?
I'll tell you what money line I would bet. The Cheshire Rams. Go Cheshire Rams. Hey, it's closing time. Means you can't stay here. For Lawrence Jackson and Jay Croucher, I'm Matthew Berry. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.